Hi there. Every Sunday, a group of autistic people get together and drop in. It's an informal group, but some of the things that people say deserve a bigger audience. So they give us permission for us to put them in an edited reel, and that's what we're here for. Today's edited reel of the conversations that we have about our own autism. Cheers, enjoy. Lucy, does that look like a full house to you?
Yeah, I just did a head count. I think we're pretty much everybody's in.
Okay, just to introduce the whole concept here, we're going to talk about autism, we're going to talk our experiences of autism, and we have somebody who's joining for the first time that's wanted to come and talk with us in a more complicated way by doing a recording with us, and that's Austinn here. Austinn has a history of advocacy for autistic people and has spoken out against all kinds of inequalities. I think, Austinn, you would say that you generally try to send out a positive message about what can be achieved. Is that right?
Awesome. Well, let's get to it. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm so glad to be here. And yes, I'm an autism motivational speaker.
We, for the next hour, are going to chill together and say what happened in our week, moan a bit, and then possibly say nice things that have happened to us, just as a group, just chipping things in. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yes, I do get where you're coming from. And yeah, I love what we're doing here.
We just did one of our conversations in edit, and I remember we were talking about the unknown hero associated with the code breaking and such around Turin, and that the fella that was coming to light, who may have been autistic, had something wrong with him, and he said the newly formed health service would get to him in turn, so he didn't chase anything up. And having that conversation with you guys and then talking about our reluctance to chase things up, I followed up my scan. I was taken in on a Sunday to fill in a space, or because there was some urgency, I don't know, and scanned at a local hospital. And I just left it at that, expecting the system to sort itself out. And then after talking with you guys about that experience, I chased it up and I found out that they had done all the necessary investigation on my scan, but they hadn't sent it to the right people. They hadn't sent it to my doctor. They'd put it on a kind of notice board that the other hospital wasn't using. And so my next thing, which was to have another appointment with a consultant, didn't happen. And that just links into what we are actually talking about, our own autism.
So, Jules, are you kind of up to date with the stuff now, and is it making any more sense?
Yeah, you've got to remember the symptoms I've got, the chances of it being anything malignant is really tiny. So it's a slow growing thing, and I've just got all kinds of lovely blood tests back showing really good results in all of the functions. As my brother-in-law had cancer just recently in his prostate, and he's just had that operated on, and he's recovering now. And we found out that his brother, my other brother-in-law, has also got a high marker on that test. So if you're of a certain age, guys, get that blood test that can tell you whether you have some issues or not, because it actually was the blood test because his brother had an issue that led this guy to have an early bit of information that's going to help him.
My brother-in-law has also got cancer and has just been discharged from hospital after having stem cell therapy. They had wanted to keep him in longer but needed the bed, as the NHS do, and so he's gone home now, but he is incredibly poorly, and my sister is at the moment trying to help him through it. He's had so much done over the last couple of weeks, and I feel very terribly sorry because there's nothing I can do. I can't do anything to help, and I can't go even to see him at the moment because apparently what I've been told is that now he's gone through this treatment, he has to repeat all his childhood vaccines again. Not something that I knew about, but yeah, he has to go through all those from baby up and get all his vaccines again. So he's in a really vulnerable place.
So, Jules, initially were you linking this to autism? Because my father and other members of my family were always of the mind to avoid doctors. It was best not to get too involved and to look after yourself. So I can see that kind of tradition in certain people, whether or not it's specifically part of another condition, or whether it was just the way certain people were brought up in a certain community from a certain era as well. So I just thought I'd chip that one in there.
Yeah, I think you're picking up a little bit of what I'm trying to allude to, really. All of the men that I can think of around actually of any age, seem to be people who have avoided going to any kind of medical service whatsoever. And sometimes that's been to their detriment. And I do think it goes with the territory of autism. I don't know from the female point of view, there's other people here to speak for that. Looking over at the text, JR says he just got a letter about an annual medical. That sounds good to me, JR. And getting a checkup is a good thing to have, I think, and you might feel differently. Teresa is sending best wishes and hope that it's going to improve, Lucy's relative there. Robbie points out, and it fits in a bit to what we were saying there, Ray, is about, he says, I avoid doctors for my own safety. In some ways, maybe my reticence of being on the phone to say, are all the people talking to the right people and saying, oh, it'll happen, is a reticence to be part of the whole process at all. Yes, probably.
I think that's where that vague phrase comes in, quality of life. I've always referred to medicine or health as a relationship, and it's what kind of relationship you have with that. And what Robbie was saying there is that things can work together, like the emotional and the physical. Stomach cramps and stomach issues can be very much part of stress and state of mind, whatever. To me, that is a form of relationship with yourself and your surroundings and how you live. I just want to go back on the thing about women in the relationship and the difference between maybe women and men relating to health concerns. It may be that women, to a certain extent, can't escape it. They're more in touch, not voluntarily, but just from who they are. They're maybe more connected or related to the health services than men can be. Men can kind of like drift off and not be involved unless it's an emergency, say. Or in the case of my family, some members of my family, they're hypochondriacs. So they're always wanting a relationship with a GP to find out what's wrong.
Any specialist I've ever had, I never connected with, and I continue not to. I think it's the family practitioner who's supposed to hold all those threads together. And just like Robbie is saying, and Ray too, it is your quality of life. Because I'm not sure to be like a hippie or anything, but a lot of things, and I'm not going to include cancer here because it's so serious, but autoimmune conditions, I think, can be done by stress, probably similar to autism, like you have the genetic position and then something will trigger it, but the lights are on for a lot of them right now.
Annie used to say, if you think you've got it, you're going to get it.
Okay. So I'm going to read some of the texts that we have coming in. We're all saying hi to everybody, especially Austinn, who's come to join us today. Next, Robbie says, I should have been involved in a performance with the choir, but got emails about the time too late. GR says, I just got a letter about an annual medical. Jules says, that sounds great, Robbie. Getting a checkup. I hope he's going to improve soon, Lucy. Thanks for that, Teresa. That's in regards to my brother-in-law who's very poorly at the moment. Robbie says he avoids doctors for his own safety. GR says, not worried about it. Don't know if the blood test is for cholesterol or other things. Robbie, if you pass early, there'll be a hole in our autistic radio family, which is true. Teresa says, I think I was just lucky with my family doctor. I started with him as a university student and he retired only a few years ago. I've been having issues connecting that way with his replacements now, which we can understand. If you're with somebody for a long time, it's very difficult to have to change. Ray says, as I was saying about women, I realised I was making assumptions about women always being more involved with health services than so men. If you know someone is not going to listen, in the end you stop bothering asking for help. And then we have Austinn says, yes, thanks so much for having me here. I'm glad to join you guys and we're all really glad to have you too. Robbie says, I have been held against my will at GP and also in Fulburn, I think it says, and we're talking lots of health stuff, says Jules. I think we're up to date there.
So see, it gave people a bit of a rest from my voice. I suppose what I'm trying to say is this young American, no, the gender, I'm guessing male, has come in and we're talking about our ailments really, aren't we? And our relationship to health services because we're in that age group. I don't really know whether this spins along to anything that relates to you, mate.
Yeah, all good, Jules. Yeah, I understand as much as you guys are talk about like the health stuff here along the cancer and another health stuff that we're talking about here. But yeah, I don't think it really relates to me, to be honest, as none of me or my family has had like cancer or any of the or health problems that we're facing. But I totally understand the point here. I totally get what other people are going through though if they have cancer, for example, as much as we're not facing any health concerns on our end.
I access all my health records myself, which is a thing you can do through I think it's called System One or something. Anyway, I signed up for that because as far as I'm concerned, if there's something happening with my health, I don't want to second guess it. So I look at my health records at least once or twice a week to make sure that there's nothing in there I've missed, or looking at what recommendations or where I'm being referred to. And I've had a lot of things with kind of health just of late. So I tend to keep it quite close. Maybe it's because I am an ex-doctor's receptionist and I know things can get missed, but I will go back and I'll read all my doctor's notes after a consultation just to see what they wish to do and whether I want to go through that.
I took part in the University of Southampton Autism and Mental Health study this week. It was okay, but I did nearly break a couple of times because it's just, I think I said this the other week, it's like the experiences I had years ago are still defining me and I'm not really moving forwards, but hopefully if I keep telling people the story, something will come out of it.
I think I heard you, GR, saying that if somebody hears your story, some good will come out of it. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm hoping that some of my experiences, I don't think what happened to me 10, 11 years ago would necessarily happen now, but it doesn't do any harm just to make sure that people know that you were there, you need to get there, and you need to do these sort of things to get to where the services are better.
It's like how your experience can help others, yeah.
They just asked me the questions and I answered them, and local mental health unit is charging me on 2 occasions because they didn't deal with people with autism because they were mentally disabled and therefore not mentally ill. But I don't think that's the case now because that unit on occasion have brought people to autism social groups I'm in. So hopefully things have changed. The Charity Mind, I used to go there on a Saturday morning, but after lockdown I didn't go back. And now I had 2 groups organised by Autism Hampshire, but one closed down. But the other one I go to every fortnight now.
Robbie comes in with a few more here. Both parents had cancer and a lot of my friends. I was referring to Austinn being in good health and happy to hear that. Robbie also said, our close friends had an appointment for cancer checks recently. Austinn thanks me. I mentioned to Lucy in response to what she was saying about chasing up her records and being that kind of agency, that I consider a lot of health issues are sometimes admin, and it's chasing up paperwork. It's the administration of the process, even getting an appointment. Teresa says, I paid for something like that too, Lucy, and Teresa is an ex-researcher at the University Science and Medicine Library. So similar experiences. Teresa was asking, like, how did it go with GR and the contributions he was making to that meeting. Robbie says experiences he had over 40 years ago still affect him. That's the kind of reaction I was having to this idea that things 10 years ago may not still be applicable. But I think when you get your diagnosis, sometimes you're asked about your childhood, and often they want someone who knew you when you were a child. But sometimes you have to remember for yourself what was going on when you were a child during that experience. Lucy then says, hard to remember all the things that have been said in consultations. Yeah, having them accessible is much easier to understand. Teresa writes in the text that that's a good goal, GR, for you too, not just others. Oh, there's been some more. I think this is what happens when you read out text. People just start filling the text box. Teresa says, I'm curious, coming from Canada, what Austinn's experience is as an autistic person in the US medical system, if he'd like to share. Yeah, I'd be interested in that too. But I'll just read Robbie's final comment there. I am waiting for ADHD assessment, which can take a while. I don't know anyone who knew me when I was a child. So that's Robbie responding to what I've just read out in the text, or my comment. Austinn. Teresa is curious, coming from Canada, what your experience is as an autistic person in the US medical, if you'd like to respond.
Of course, Teresa, and you guys, of course, I would love to respond. So, to answer that question, with my experience, as I have autism, as I was diagnosed at age 2 and cannot speak till age 5, but I would say on that end, it doesn't matter if you have autism or not to have different health concerns. I have to say, the reason why I'm in great health is just because I've been exercising daily, as my father Eric has been owning gyms throughout my whole entire life. Since when I was 6, that was when I started to actually work out. Then he started to get me to walk on the treadmill, and he trained me on some exercises with free weights like dumbbells. And then later on, it's like around like age 12 and 13, he hired me to train with a personal trainer who worked at one of his gyms, because he didn't have time to train me himself because he was so busy training people. And I remember it would be like during the summertime he would train me, not the whole year. And then of course I work on my own too then. And then during my senior year of high school, that personal trainer named Jaime, he started to train me again for a little bit during my senior year of high school. I say a lot of exercising always keeping me in great health, if you have autism or not, to be in great health. What I'm just saying with that is that autism doesn't really affect your health. Like, yeah, you just gotta like exercise really, and actually diet too. Like 80%, actually 90% does come from great diet as well.
Hi fella, I really loved you speaking then, by the way. And yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm gonna flip it back so it's somebody else's experience as well. So I'll add in my thought. When I was young, I built on a previous setup where I did lots of cycling and long distance walking and that kind of thing. And so for many years, I did an awful lot of things that created core strength, did a lot of bodybuilding in effect by carrying rucksacks and tents and things, and did a lot of long distance stuff by walking long distances and things like this. And I put my health now as a 60-year-old man, the body part of my health, down to flexercise in the same constant way you're talking about your dad got you into it and you kept doing it for a period of time, over a long period, that sustained thing. So yeah, I get what you're saying, and I think partly that you can do it is because you're autistic, sustaining that.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's what I'm working towards. Right now, that's always been my dream and goal, is to bodybuild as well. In fact, both my parents, my dad used to do shows and compete and model. Even, wait, before I get into that, you do what? Do you also exercise? You do bodybuilding? What do you do, man?
Don't do any of that. I used to. What I was referring to there was when you mentioned you were typing in the text your question or answer. I do that sometimes in the text and then I go on to the mic. But it's good to type it up first to get to remember what I was going to say. So it's a form of note keeping in the sense of just to remind me what it was I was going to say or trying to say to someone. But yeah, what you're both saying is great about countering depression. I remember living in what we call housing estates here, really high-rise buildings full of a lot of people, poorer side of town. And people kind of got locked into their houses. And this project that said really the best way for you to counter the depression that causes you is to get out the house, if you can, slowly, and then go somewhere, like not in a vehicle or a bus, but walk, say, or a bicycle, and get yourself to somewhere non-urban, if you can, to the hills, to mountains, to somewhere natural. And just that change in air can affect your mind. Not for everyone, but I thought it was a brilliant thing to be recommended at the time in that environment.
I get you, Ray. I see. Yes, I totally agree. That's so awesome to do that sometimes when it comes to note keeping too, or that question. And yes, I do agree, Ray, that I'm an autism motivational speaker as well. But my father and I, we also own a gym together as we're both personal trainers as well. And this is how we know this. Yeah, I agree. Not only exercising and diet, of course, does affect the whole body physically and your whole well-being, but also mentally as well. No matter where the body doesn't feel great, then the mind is not going to feel great, because the brain is the boss of the body and it sends nerve signals off throughout your body. If you feel any kind of pain, then your mind is going to think that you don't feel great. So if your body doesn't feel great, then your mind doesn't feel great as well. To answer that question, Ray, so you socialize well, and now finding time to answer that question. Yes, I do socialize well. Okay, my father got custody of me at 5 years old, started to teach me how to speak through Hooked on Phonics. He would come home every night from work, and I would sit in my bedroom, and then we read a chapter of Hooked on Phonics every night. He would also do puzzles with me as well. He would test me on the different states and capitals as we would take all the pieces out, and then he would tell me, all right, Austin, put down California. I'll put down California. All right, put down Texas. I'll put down Texas, and same with the other states. But he also has put me on a strict gluten-free and casein-free diet from age 5 till 14. And back to that topic of health, and along with me saying that 90% of being healthy does come from diet, along with 10% coming from exercise, no matter if it's bike riding or walking around the neighborhood, playing a sport like soccer or football, but also exercising in the gym as well. And not only doing all of that helps keep you in great shape, physically, but like I said, mentally as well. And same with everyone else too. It can also help them mentally, along with helping them maybe do well in school or help them speak or whatever. Yeah, so I was having trouble socializing still with others, in a conversation from age 5 till high school. I say I started doing a little bit better with my communicating.
Austin, I'm just going to ask you to pause for a bit, because you've done is really marvellous, and you can see in the text that people have just enjoyed listening to you going with the flow and putting all that out there. And you can see in the text that's what we were enjoying, you going with the flow and people saying it's brilliant. And I need you to take a rest now.
Sorry about that, guys. I was focusing on the talking. Now I'm taking a look at the text. Thanks so much for all your support, guys.
Robbie says gym type exercise is never going to happen. He struggles with doing things that he finds boring. Teresa's doing big bits of exercise like cycling and hiking. She says that she did a lot too. Little triathlons, weight training, Pilates and so much cycling, all solo. None of them team sports, which I now see as a bit autistic or part of my autism, I'm guessing. Everything I did was always solo, always long distance. I would go away camping for days at a time, either with or without a bike, with or without a rucksack. I do exactly the same. My wife does the same. We go to our own woodland that we have. Sometimes I'm there cutting down a tree, or sometimes I'm just there being amongst the trees, smelling the ground in all of its different amounts of moisture and looking at all the mushrooms. And just being in nature, I think, is a very positive thing for any of us, whatever they label their mental health as. Robbie says and points out an alternative to all this fitness malarkey is that taking part in playing music is one of the few things that helps him with his depression. And Robbie is a performer and he takes part online in groups and he has a Facebook page, and there's lots of things that Robbie does there, but we all know he is in a situation of isolation, and we value the idea that he comes here and helps us out here and talks to us here. There's a little bit of conversation went around the Robbie also likes doing archery. He can compete against himself during archery. He doesn't have to have anybody else to compete against. He just doesn't like anything competitive. My wife and I celebrate when each of us wins Scrabble, and we help each other. Specifically, the forest can help with infections and breathing issues and mental health if it's your thing. And I'm absolutely with you there, Teresa. It's been being out in nature as much as I have during my life that has left me with a better health now from my recent checkup than it would have been. The stuff that American fella's doing over there is intense and it's bodybuildery kind of stuff, but it is building a body that is more resilient to disease, better at controlling its hormonal levels and its blood sugar levels, etc. Just because we're autistic, we do have to consider that we have a body that is what we have as a sort of brain support system. Totally, Robbie. Music is a wonder. So we're going between us for exercise can be a good thing, a great routine if you can get it in. Diet's important. Maybe restricting, taking out some gluten or something. Maybe you might be more sensitive if you're autistic. We've got other people saying they did long distance stuff for their mental health, being solo, and music.
Always amazing to take part. Yeah, thanks so much again for having me here, you guys, and thanks so much, Jules. I love this group, and I'm loving the comments here to you guys. Yeah, again, thanks so much to all you guys. Thanks so much for having me here for the first time.
Well, it's 5:44 now, so our drop-in hour is finished, and thank you to all the people who have texted, and also to the people who have put their voices to this that are going to allow us to put some of those words out into the podcast. If you join us here at the 444, your voice isn't recorded, your text isn't recorded, but the people here have given permission so that it's an example for others. See you again, always reliably, Sunday, 4:44 p.m. Cheers, guys.